I did it again.
Woo-wee.
I did the thing
You
again.
did the
I
thing.
did it where I was on the wrong camera again. Hi, are we okay? Audio's going out, so that's good. We like that. Um, Hi everybody. It's Tuesday, so that means it's time to talk about comics that are coming out.
Hmm.
You got a good stack there, dude?
I got a big stack. Not it's. I think the last couple of weeks, I think we say this often, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's a light week, it's a
It's a
light
light
week,
week.
and then it's a huge week.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a huge week. This was
Mm-hmm.
actually a light week for me and my pull, but there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of different stuff that I wanted to check out. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got a variety of stuff to go through. But as always, I like to
Yeah.
start every single. Um, I like to start every single
Stream?
stream. That's what I'm trying to think
That's
of.
where we are. We're
Yeah, with
streaming right
with
now.
with the facsimiles. So boom, DC's got two of them coming out
Oh.
this week.
Oh.
Adventure Comics number 260. I think this is from 1960.
Hot in here.
Yeah, it's a little toasty.
It's toasty. I'm taking this thing off.
So I love these old Silver Age Superman covers. Like they're just this is the era where the covers just had something ridiculous on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would come up with a story to fit the cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this one has a story about it's about Superboy when Superman was a teenager,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and his parents adopt a different superhero kid.
What?
While he's in space.
What?
But that's actually not why this book is getting a facsimile reprint.
Mhm.
It also, if you see this tiny little blurb in the bottom corner, it says also in this issue how Aquaman got his powers.
Oh.
And so this issue is
Something I've
technically
never been interested
something
in.
nobody's ever cared about. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't interesting enough to really make the cover. Like,
Yeah.
they know people want Superboy. That's the
Sure.
cover. But this is, I think, it is technically the first appearance of the Silver Age Superman,
Mhm.
the version that started in 1960, and pretty much is kind of the template for the one currently. It's always kind of
Okay.
built off of this one. But so yeah, there's an Aquaman story in here, and so if you are excited about that new Aquaman movie that's coming out, probably I don't know when, soonish. I haven't. I've heard literally nobody talk about this movie, but I'm positive that's why they're putting out this facsimile to drum up hype.
Is it Jason Momoa again?
It is Jason Momoa. Yeah, that's all I know.
Okay.
That's,
I'm not gonna talk bad about Jason Momoa. 'Cause he seems like a nice
you know what?
guy.
He seems like a cool
He
dude.
seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have anything bad to say about Jason Momoa, but I don't know if there's much interested in that movie.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna go on a
Okay.
little tangent here because that's what I do. So underwater CGI is really hard to pull off correctly, and I think that's the big thing that's hurting a lot of these underwater
Mhm.
films. It doesn't look right.
Yeah.
And then Jason Momoa cannot act.
He looks good.
It looks great.
He looks great. I gotta say, him not acting, I kind of agree.
Yeah.
But I did like him in Dune. He was like really good
was
in
good in
Dune.
Dune,
Like
okay,
pretty
yeah.
charismatic for
Yeah.
being kind of like a lighthearted.
So maybe
jokey
it's
guy.
a direction. It's a director issue.
It almost might seem like
I take it back, you guys.
It might be that whoever's making these DC movies just doesn't really know like what they want out of the character or what they're doing, But I'm hardly the first person to suggest that.
Mhm. What else we got?
So we got another facsimile. Boom, Batman.
The Batman.
Number 5. This
Ooh.
has got to be from like 1940, 41, probably. I think the reason this one is getting a reprint is it's.
Is there a Batman movie on the way?
You know what? There's like always a Batman movie
feels
on the
like
way. To be fair, I think Batman's the one character that DC doesn't need a reason to do a facsimile reprint. I love these Golden Age
People just
Batman
like Batman.
stories. Yeah, and these old ones are pretty like. I feel like they're kind of lost. A lot of people, when they go back in time to like look at old Batman, they look at the 80s and 70s, and then maybe they see the 60s stuff where it's really campy and he's fighting like aliens and robots and genies and stuff. And a lot of this, alien genies, and a lot of this Golden Age stuff kind of gets glossed over, and it's really good. It's just really pulpy, like if you like pulp fiction. But I think this one, like, it's notable because it's I don't know if it's the first appearance of the Batmobile or if it's just like a first design of a Batmobile or something. There's something related to the Batmobile that's in this.
And that's why it's
issue, and that's probably why it's getting that's why it's a key issue. Although in my opinion,
Batmobile.
any issue that's before 1970 could be considered a key issue just because of how old it is. I'm happy with any reprint. But anyway, I like these old Batman stories. They're a lot of fun. They're really cool. This one has another good like classic. I like how in these old ones Batman is such a tough guy. Like he's like
I mean, he's always
pretty tough, but like
Even tougher.
It's
tougher
different.
guy?
It's different than like now these days he's like just can do everything tough
Mhm.
guy. It's like with prep time Batman can beat
Yeah,
anybody.
sure. Yeah.
That type of a thing, and you don't get that feeling from this. But it's more of the I can't now. I lost the page.
This is good streaming.
Good stream. Yeah. Hey, at least I'm not coughing into the microphone
right,
this time.
yeah.
So we got that
little
going for us.
It's a little rough.
Anyway, yeah, there's it's just good stuff.
some-
It's like
there's something good in
two-fisted
there.
justice from Batman. You can trust me that it's quality.
Yeah.
It's like more like old school tough guy where he gets beat up a lot. And
Yeah.
a lot of times he gets lucky,
Mhm.
which I kind of appreciate. Where it's just like when you have one guy that's in a bat costume
Mhm.
taking on 5 henchmen with guns.
Mhm.
It's like stuff. It's like rumble tumble, like chaos, and he can just make the most of it. And it's good
That's
stuff.
Batman.
It's cool. So that's it for the facsimiles.
Okay, yeah.
We're just gonna briefly churn through some of the stuff that's in my
Churn,
poll.
We're gonna churn.
I always recommend. I like Shazam.
Shazam!
It's a fun comic. Dan Moore's art is awesome. Mark Waid is killing it. There's a fun little thing in this where kind of the running story, just to catch you up if you're interested. Billy Batson, all the gods that give him his powers. Remember we talked about what Shazam stands
Shazam
for.
stands for the names of those different gods. Yeah.
Yeah, and also Solomon, who's not a god, but he's a famous historical person.
Mhm.
Anyway, so the Shazam family is a very famous part of the Shazam mythos. Like all of his adopted brothers and sisters
Mhm.
all become Shazam-esque superheroes in their own right
Shazamites.
through his power. And this story arc has them all losing that power, and the gods are like, "No, we're just going to have Billy be
Interesting.
Shazam." And there's a fun thing where all of his foster siblings raid his trophy closet that has
Mhm.
like just magical items and trophies from adventures, and so they can have like new superpower personas.
Interesting.
So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, dinosaur.
I like a
I
dinosaur.
love
yeah.
dinosaurs.
Is she riding the dinosaur?
She is riding that dinosaur. But yeah, it's a good
Everyone
comic.
Walk the dinosaur.
Just always want to everybody get on the floor.
Yeah.
Everybody
walk
ride
the-
that dinosaur.
Yeah, there you go.
So just want to briefly mention, I love Shazam. You should check
Ooh.
it out. That cover I had was the Chris Samney variant. Moving on to another book that's always in my poll these days,
The
Birds of Prey. I have just been loving this series. Kelly Thompson and Leonardo Romero. I don't even want to show you too much that's going on in this issue.
We don't want to
This
spoil
this cover alone just
Mhm.
says everything. Look at that.
anything.
Big Barda squaring off against Wonder Woman.
Mhm,
It is
mhm.
this whole issue is almost just like one giant epic fight scene,
Nice.
and it's great. I'll find like just to give you an idea of like the throwdown, like just some excellent
Going
action,
after it.
perfectly depicted, like a Big Barda doing Big Barda things.
Mhm, mhm.
Wonder Woman holding her
Breaking
own because
backs.
she's Wonder Woman.
Mhm,
Yeah, it's really great. Excellent stuff. Moving on to another book that's also
Ooh.
excellent stuff.
Transformers.
And also, this issue, like the Birds of Prey issue, is kind of just one big frantic action scene, and it is also pretty. Am I overusing the term epic by saying it's epic? It's just
kind of, yeah.
I love Daniel Warren Johnson's art, and he is just killing it on this book. Like I don't know, he depicts giant robots smashing into each other so perfectly in a way that Michael Bay can't.
Well,
There's I don't want to like spoil too much of it, but
Michael Bay.
Optimus Prime gets his arm blasted pretty good. You can see there.
Ooh, hey.
Like it's just really, really cool stuff. I'm 3 issues in, and Daniel Warren Johnson is just maintaining the frenetic energy that he established in the first issue.
Frenetic energy.
I love it.
That's a good word.
Well, it's true. So another book that has been
frenetic right now.
I'm feeling a little frenetic.
I mean,
yeah.
who isn't?
This The Sacrificers by Rick Remender and Max Fumara.
Yeah.
This book has been kind of in and out of my pull. I haven't committed to pulling it, but I have been reading every issue as they come out. So it's similar to we talked about Void Rivals, where I was like, I'm going to give it 6 issues and kind of see how it goes. I haven't had similar thing with The Sacrificers. I feel like it was moving a little too slowly, so I couldn't like jump on, like get excited about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to see where this
What's
goes.
happening here?
So I don't want to show too much from this issue, much like those other ones.
Yeah.
I do feel like this issue 5, here we are at issue 5, it feels like some significant momentum is really picked up with the story, and I was
finally getting
for
somewhere.
finally getting somewhere
Oh,
in a
issue
way that
5?
well, you know what, I said that about Void Rivals by issue 6. It
Yeah.
kind of wasn't like catching me.
Nothing was
So here we
happening.
are, Sacrificers issue 5 kind of caught my attention
Mhm,
with
mhm.
some of the plot developments. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but it's a good book. It's an interesting fantasy setting where it's basically gods versus humans,
Mhm.
but there's a hierarchy, but it's both social and class, where the gods have this immortal life juice that makes them immortal.
Yeah, life
and
juice.
and it's derived from
Capri Sun.
yeah, it's like Capri
Yeah,
Sun,
life
exactly.
juice.
Yeah, life juice, and it's derived from the people, and so
Yeah.
there's this like symbiotic relationship. I think I explained it when I talked about
Yeah,
previous
you
issues.
did.
of-
I lost most of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming to me.
But what I think I liked about this issue, just to get a little like literature 101, I don't know,
Ooh.
discussing some of the themes of the
Yeah.
book. I really like that it feels very timely and very topical, because you have this situation where you have this upper class, which are these immortal gods, and the underclass, which are these people that basically just toil and struggle for their whole life for nothing,
Yeah.
just so that the old gods, who didn't used to be immortal, that's a key
Mhm.
thing, is that they just recently became immortal.
Mhm.
And so there's this sense of like these gods were supposed to have died out by now, but they're desperately clinging on to their position by taking advantage of the lower class.
Mhm.
And it all feels kind of topical with some of the I don't know,
Yeah.
generational stuff.
Yeah.
There's an
Socioeconomic
socioeconomics,
issues.
generational wealth.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's a smart book. Like I said, it's by Rick Remender. He's a smart writer, and I was happy. I noticed those. I picked up on those themes early on.
Yeah,
I'm just happy that
Because you're a smart guy.
because I'm a really smart guy. I read a lot of comic books. That makes me smart.
That's true.
But I was
More than I
glad.
do.
I was glad to see that the not just the plot, but like some of the character stuff is really picking up.
Yeah, and there's some depth.
There's some depth to it. Yeah,
There's layers and subtext. So yeah,
yes,
that's always good.
It's a good book. I'm actually I'm getting to the point where I will highly recommend it. I actually can't wait for this trade to come out, because I think people will really get into it. All right. Let's check out just some new stuff that's coming out this week that I really didn't have any knowledge or interest of.
Yeah.
It's
I didn't know about it, and I didn't care.
it's December, so that means Christmas books,
holiday themed.
yeah.
books.
And so one of the first ones we got here, DC is putting out Batman, Santa Claus, Silent Night.
Is it Batman versus Santa Claus?
No, it is Batman teaming up with Santa Claus.
Okay.
That'd
be more interesting if he's fighting.
You know what? That would be interesting, but they don't go there. Instead, basically, instead it's essentially Batman teaming up with Santa Claus to fight the Krampus.
Dude,
because
Santa Claus looks
look,
BA.
he's
Oh man,
Santa's ripped, man.
dude, that's a big.
So
dude.
this is the like I know his glowing
like
eyes.
glowing.
Yeah, it's
Holy crap!
reindeer are dangerous, man.
Dude, yeah, they'll get you. They'll maul you.
They will.
They will trample you.
So this is Santa Claus is
Run
presented
you over, run over your grandma.
as like the Nordic Viking type of Santa Claus that he is, very
Mhm.
old magic
Mhm.
type. And it's pretty straightforward, but I did enjoy it. I have to admit, it's first of all, it's a 4-issue series. So I was reading it and I was like, this is pretty okay for like a one shot. That's what I expected. And then it kind of kept going, and I was thinking in my head as I'm reading, like, this is about the part of the book.
Mhm.
There's like 3 pages left. It should be wrapping up.
Yeah.
And then it kind of builds on itself.
Why is it still going?
And why is it still going? And I had to check to see that it is indeed, there are more issues, and it ends, of course, with a big to be continued. So no, it's good. I think if you like Batman, if you like Christmas, you will really enjoy this book, because
like
it's got
Santa Claus.
If you like Santa Claus, it's got both of those things. Did you see the movie that came out last Christmas? What was it called? Violent Night.
I didn't see it.
I did see it. I kind of really loved it.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
There's kind of a similar.
I'll check it out.
There's a little bit of a similar vibe going on with this
Mhm,
Batman, where
mhm.
Santa is presented as. I mean, he in the Batman book, it's not strictly the same as Violent Night. I
Mhm.
loved Violent Night because Santa was just like an old Viking,
Mhm.
and he was that's where the Santa Claus myth was derived from.
Mhm.
There's magic involved, that's why he's still
Yeah.
around doing the Santa Claus thing. But it's kind of similar with this Batman book where it's like tough old Viking Santa,
Yeah.
who's not
That's cool.
afraid. Yeah, so it's good stuff. And like all DC books, it's a good all ages thing. It's a people pleaser type of book, you could say. Dan, you're not people, so you don't count.
I'm very hard to
All
please.
right,
Stuff
Another-
of nightmares.
another Santa book.
That's
now
a
this one,
scary Santa.
so this is
with a
horror
chainsaw.
Santa. Yeah. So this is by R.L. Stein. You know R.L. Stein.
Yeah, Goosebumps.
Goosebumps,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So he has this comic series called Stuff of Nightmares,
Mhm.
where it is it's pretty much like similar to Goosebumps, where
It's
it's just like
Goosebump.
all ages,
Yeah.
horror with like kind of the Twilight Zone angle. This one is a one shot. It's like
Mhm.
it's an oversized book, and it just tells the story of
Chainsaw Santa.
he's a mall Santa
Mm.
who loses his job because
Yep.
the mall is closing because nobody goes to the malls
Yep.
anymore.
Nope. Yeah.
And he,
Inflation, bro.
yeah, it's rough. Let me tell you.
Amazon.
And he, you know what? That I wonder if that's going to play into it because, well, it won't because it's this one shot issue. I know how it ends, but
it's like already done.
yeah, but it basically is just like a mall Santa that goes crazy
Mhm.
and starts killing people, goes
Yeah.
on a killing spree,
Yeah.
and he makes it his mission
He goes
to
on a sleigh ride.
pretty much, yeah. That's the pun on the front cover. But I like that he feels like nobody respects Santa anymore, so
Mhm.
he goes to take back all the presents from kids. So
Wow.
he's breaking in. He's like a little bit of a Grinch angle. He's breaking into houses to steal the presents,
Excellent.
and then a bunch of stuff happens and people get killed. It is a horror book, but yeah, it's pretty good. If you like that Goosebumps, if this is completely up your alley, is that the phrase?
Yeah.
It's in your neighborhood.
It's in your wheelhouse.
Wheelhouse is actually probably the phrase I was
It's up
trying to think of.
If it's up your wheelhouse,
If it's
you
up
should
your-
check this out. Yeah. Excellent.
But yeah, so good stuff. All right, I got some new number ones here to check out. So first thing I noticed about this that I love. So obviously you look at this cover, you're like, okay, barbarian comic.
Yeah.
I love this logo,
Mhm.
very death metal
It is
logo.
Very death.
And then I love that in parentheses,
So you can actually
so
read
you can
it.
read the logo. Yeah, so that's
So
perfect.
It's not death metal enough because you can actually read that. You
Ex-
can actually make it out.
So I had that thought where I was like, I don't think they really needed that.
No,
like
you
you
can
can
still
read,
read it.
but maybe I'm just desensitized to it because
'Cause of all-
I'm accustomed to reading
Right.
death metal
font,
logos.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that they have the clear text on there for those of you that might not be so accustomed to reading metal font. But this is a book that's written and drawn by Andrew Cranky, or
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Cranky,
Cronky?
Cronk. I want to say Cranky. It's going to be really
Cranky?
difficult for me
Cranky?
to not because I played a lot of Donkey Kong in my
Mhm.
day, and
Yeah.
I really like Cranky Kong.
Mhm.
So
Is that a character?
Cranky Kong, yeah,
Really?
that's like his
I don't
his
play.
old grandpa.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
I
I'm
don't-
sorry, Andrew.
I don't play Donkey
Well, you're a loser.
Kong.
So anyway,
Anyway,
this is a pretty cool barbarian comic. If you like barbarians, I'm not familiar with Andrew's art, but it's really good. So
What was that?
I don't know. Is there like a squirrel in the walls? You heard that too, right?
Is there someone climbing through the vents right
Oh
now?
no! So it's Die Hard coming a little early.
Excellent. I heard it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah. But so is Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. The first one, yeah, it does
Yeah.
take place during the holidays.
Mhm.
I mean, it starts with Jingle Bell Rock, and then they grow.
Right. Everybody forgets about Lethal Weapon. They always want to go to Die
Great movie.
Hard. Anyway, this is a good barbarian comic. It's pretty sparse on
Yeah.
story. Like it's
Mhm.
really light, which it's something that you read to just really appreciate the art.
Mhm.
I think.
Kind of get the feel for the aesthetic and the vibe.
Yes. But
It's
this
putting
is
the vibe out there.
it's just you got to put the vibe out there, man.
Mhm.
It's a 3-issue series, so this is just kind of setting up this character.
Setting up the vibe.
Whoa.
Whoa. Look at
Yeah,
all this
yeah.
going on.
He's. I like this page a lot because this is him.
Imagine
Like he's
it.
frustrated with his unsuccessful hunt,
Yeah,
and so he's like, he's frustrated. He doesn't understand why he's not caught anything because he's the king of the woods, and
Mhm.
this image of just all these dead
He's
animals.
imagining
Yeah.
everything that he's killed.
Yeah. So it's a good comic. I highly recommend it if you like violent barbarian type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not into death metal imagery and Viking people smashing
what's
each
wrong
other.
with you?
Well, yeah. First of all, come on,
Come on.
you know,
Come on.
come on. But also,
Come on.
I can understand why you might just pass right over this comic, but don't ignore it if you are into that type of thing because it's pretty good, and I'm excited to see where the next issue goes. Next up, number one.
It's gonna be worth something.
This is the Sentry, not as much as the real Sentry number one, which came out in like the year 2000 or 99. I don't remember. I think it was 2000.
In the year 2000.
Yes. Anyway, I'll just right out of the gate. I didn't like this issue. So I don't want to spend much time talking about it.
Well, we appreciate your honesty. What didn't you like about it?
So the Sentry is an interesting character, but it's a problem where the character was first introduced, like I said, in the year 2000, and it was a good idea for a single book. It was the basic idea was the Sentry is this superhero that was a part of the Marvel universe that everybody mysteriously forgot, and he's got this supervillain called the Void, which is this all-powerful evil, and then you should know by now, spoiler warning for a 20-year-old story, the twist at the end is that he and the Void are the same being. And so it's all of Marvel superheroes always have like a weakness attached to them. Not always, but oftentimes. Daredevil's blind.
Yeah.
Thor was originally...
Whoa. You're saying being blind's a weakness?
No, I'm saying that he was able to overcome it, and that's why he's the hero. But also, yeah, being blind is a bit of a hindrance. I think any blind person will tell you that. I mean, you're still just salty because you have to wear those glasses and you can't see without them. But so that was kind of the angle with the Sentry of like, oh, he's got like schizophrenia or multiple person. What if somebody that was schizophrenic had superpowers?
Oh, okay.
And so it's
That's
a fine idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And but the setup was it kind of like it was a self-contained story. Like it ends with like Sentry not being a part of the Marvel universe, really. And then
because I've never heard of that character.
Exactly. No, and nor should you, because the whole point is that he's not really a part of the Marvel universe.
It was meant to be there to be taken out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
to show you that like a character could just be taken out of that universe.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And like each of the issues of the original series were like done in the style of like a famous old comic book series. So it's like the time the Sentry crossed over with the X-Men, and it's the 1960s X-Men. And so it was a fun kind of like kitschy book. Like it was a neat idea. It was a little bit of a navel gazing at Marvel's own history of like, yeah, remember the 60s X-Men or the 70s Spider-Man or whatever. And so then the character got introduced into the main continuity, and nobody's really known how to utilize him in that sense because he's too overpowered to be in the Marvel universe. Like he's supposed to be like Marvel's Superman. Like what if you had a Superman in the Marvel universe? But in the Marvel universe, because all the characters have all these like weird quirks and handicaps, he would be insane. That's kind of the idea, and that's why it doesn't work. At least that's what I took from the original graphic novel. Is written by Paul Jenkins, who is a good writer, and so there was a second Sentry series in the mid 2000s that didn't work for me because it was a way of trying to like figure out his place in the Marvel Universe continuity when originally the plan wasn't for him to be a part of the continuity. He was introduced in the New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis, and so now this is kind of yet another attempt to figure out what to do with the Sentry.
What do we do with this guy?
What do we do with this character? I guess he died or got killed at some point, but nobody dies and stays dead. So the basic premise is not in Marvel. The basic premise is that Sentry is gone, and a bunch of new characters have mysteriously inherited some of his powers.
Okay.
And so this whole first issue is just watching these characters, like something happened to them, and they like develop a power, and
they don't
understand it. It's like reading every first issue of every X-Men book. Like oh, they're a mutant and they develop their powers, and I don't know. I thought it was really dull. I think there's too many characters in it because there's like Jessica Jones is a private investigator who gets involved, but not because. So she's a PI. She's like a superhero PI.
Yeah.
She gets involved not because it's a case she has to solve, just because there's like an explosion, so she runs over there to see what's going on.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, I really don't like that it sets up with the main character supposed to be a detective, and they're not hired to investigate something.
Yeah,
she's
they're just checking
she's
it
just
out.
checking it out because she's like also maybe kind of a superhero.
Mhm.
And then there's another character, Misty Knight, who was like working for the government to investigate like super crimes or something. I don't know. It's a muddy
It
mess.
sounds
Is
a
what I
little
say.
convoluted.
It
Yeah.
sounds convoluted, and it could have the basic idea is fine.
It's just fine.
Sentry disappear. No, I mean I don't dislike it. Sentry disappears, and a bunch of like normal people like magically
his powers.
suspiciously have his powers.
Mhm.
Like where that's a good hook.
Interesting setup.
It's a
Yeah.
good setup, but like it's just I don't know. It's just pretty perfunctory is how I would put it.
So
We didn't switch seats.
What you guys?
Susie.
This stream is
Oh,
going
is
on.
it because of the names?
No, I think I flipped it.
Oh,
I
did you
flipped it.
invert it?
Yeah.
Invert the
I
image.
think I flipped it.
Wow, I didn't even know that's
I
a thing you
mean,
could do.
That I could do anything.
Wow, Dan, this is the master.
Thank you for noticing. I mean, that's great. I mean, you've watched it enough.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
notice if we switch seats. Fantastic.
I don't have much else to
The
say about
Sentry,
this.
maybe buy it anyway.
Well, I appreciate that Marvel has the character and they have to figure out ways to do something with it.
Mhm.
I guess I appreciate that. That's just the nature of the game. Like that's
You got to try.
you don't.
something.
Yeah, you got to
You
try
gotta
something.
You'll see.
But I was not. That's all I got. Okay. Another thing. So this is a book I
Yeah.
want to talk about. This is a fun. I don't know what you call it. Not a novelty. Just like a 1 in a million occurrence. This week, this Wednesday, there are 2 different books that come out
Called Fire and Ice.
from 2 different publishers about 2 different characters. 2 completely different books, both with the same name, Fire and Ice.
Like, let's come up with something new, you guys.
So this is one of those things I feel is like so I don't know, not only in comics, but it's so comic booky. So there's 2. They both like they couldn't be more opposite from each other, which I guess that's the other reason I was kind of fascinated by it. So you have this Fire and Ice, which you can see looks kind of like a fantasy setting. This is actually an adaptation from the old Ralph Bakshi movie, animated adult animated film, I guess you could say. I don't like saying adult because I don't want to imply that it's category.
I mean,
adult.
there's some like nudity.
No, there is like it is
Yeah.
definitely like it was again 1983. Times were different.
You could do
back
whatever
then.
you wanted back then.
It was definitely rated. It's definitely rated R, but I don't mean to imply that it was. I don't know. When you say adult animated,
And the thing
these
that's
days.
interesting about that one, of course, it's got the rotoscope style animation where people actually acted out the thing and then they drew and basically
they traced every cell.
They
Yeah.
traced everything, which I think is a very interesting style of animation.
It is
very distinct.
Yeah. Even as a kid, I could always notice like when something was rotoscoped, and just like it's not like I thought it was bad. I was just so curious of like why is that different? Like you could just tell it looks different.
Yeah, it seems so much more like fluid in some ways, but also like that
because it is.
There's like an uncanny valley situation where it's like they seem so real, but they're still animated.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
If you like adult cartoons.
Well, I do. So because I do like adult cartoons and I like Ralph Bakshi, I definitely enjoyed this Fire and Ice, which, by the way, this is written by Bill Willingham, who is the creator of Fables. A lot of people would know him. So he's definitely a really good writer who's a veteran of the industry, been around for a long time. This other Fire and Ice from DC is about 2 kind of D-list superhero characters that nobody remembers. I only mean that because they haven't been around for that much. But they're called Fire and Ice, and their kind of shtick is that they have like it's kind of like an Odd Couple type of a thing. I think.
Well, yeah, one's fire, one's ice. Right?
Exactly, right. I mean, it writes itself.
So it's too easy.
I was curious about this issue though because it got prominently featured on the cover. My main man Lobo.
That's Lobo.
Yeah, and he's got his twist on his catchphrase "Bite me, farm girls." I haven't read.
What's his catchphrase?
"Bite me, fanboy."
Oh,
well, I don't know if that's strictly his catchphrase, but it's a famous cover from the Keith Giffen series. "Bite me, fanboy."
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you knew that. I just for Susie's sake,
I think it's for anyone watching it.
Yeah,
specifically.
Yeah.
Susie.
So I haven't read this Fire and Ice series. I might have flipped through the first
This one?
issue.
This
Yeah, see, we're
But you
already
read-
having these troubles.
But you read.
I
you read
read
that one.
I read Fire and Ice by
Okay.
Bill Willingham, and I
But
really
not-
liked it.
but not this one.
Not this one. I think we talked about issue 1. Yeah, you're welcome, Susie. I think we talked about issue 1 when it first came out, like 4 months ago.
Mhm.
It's
Maybe.
it was in August, so I can't
I mean,
remember.
you do like a sort of sword and sorcery
I do.
situation, so we
Yes.
probably
We did, and it was a number 1, and I like to try and check
Yeah.
out number 1s.
It's going to be worth something.
Yeah, you know what? I like it when things are worth things. so
Like if something's worth my time.
yes, exactly. That's
Like not century.
that's the biggest thing. Yeah, like exactly. Like if I sound negative on a book,
Mhm.
it's because it's just like all I can think. I'm old,
Right.
and all I can think about is like I only got so much time left.
we have a finite amount of minutes left
right,
in our
and I
lives.
could have been doing something so much better.
Yeah.
Like clipping my toenails or
Or-
something. It needs to be done, and
It's gotta
you
be
always
done.
forget about it too until you
I mean,
start.
I don't.
I like scratch the inside of my leg when I'm putting my socks on, and I'm like, oh, it might be time to trim those fingernails or toenails.
You just put it on your calendar and set it up.
No.
Return.
I didn't think about that. Maybe I'll do that. I'll set up my anyway. All right, that's the toenail clip
Old
bit.
man stream. You're welcome.
So
yeah.
the only
very
thing
nice.
I wanted to say about Fire and I like I said, Lobo.
Lobo.
Our friend and coworker Abby has been reading this series, and I
Yeah.
think she's really been enjoying it.
she dressed up as Ice.
She
character
did for Halloween.
It was fantastic.
So I decided, since both of these books came out, I decided to give issue 4 a fair shake and
Mhm.
just give it a straight read through.
yeah. What'd you think?
I couldn't really understand what was going on. It's issue 4
Mhm.
of
So you're a little behind.
I was a little behind. I hadn't read the
on
rest
the
of it.
story.
It was okay. It's definitely I just again I found it interesting contrasting it to this book because these books could not be more opposite in who I think
Mhm.
they're trying to appeal to.
Mhm.
Old guys, young women.
Mhm.
Like it just was so like tonally everything is like a little cutesy in this. I
Mhm.
mean like the main character is Fire and Ice.
Yeah. they're cute.
It was for definitely there's a lot of like young people slaying in it.
Would you like Fire and Ice added to your pool or Fire and Ice?
Oh, Susie's been reading. Well, like let's just stop the stream so Susie can tell us about it
Yeah.
because
Are you reading this
oh,
one?
yeah. Which Fire and Ice are you reading,
This-
Susie?
This one?
She wants both of them. I'll just add both of them. To
Yeah,
the
we'll
poll,
put both. Yeah.
Susie. Yeah, Fire and Ice. It's really easy to tell them apart. One spells out the word and the other one has an ampersand.
Well,
That's
okay, yeah, easy.
easy,
Yeah, so
easy.
yeah, got it.
But anyway, so even with Lobo on I did kind of briefly think I'm like, Lobo, maybe I will enjoy it just for the Lobo.
Yeah, because Lobo's in there.
You know what?
Wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. Not for me. It was, as I often say, it was fine.
Well, you got to read issue 1 through 3.
I'm not going to do that. We just
Okay.
previously we just established that I am old, and
You're not the target demographic.
I'm not
is
the
what
target
you're saying.
demographic, and that's fine. I'm really glad that Susie and Abby both really like it.
I mean, I'm happy for them.
but I'm always happy for them. So,
Two of my favorite people.
you don't. Not everybody gets shout outs like that on our
Right?
show.
Well, she's the only one that watches
She's-
the show.
pretty Pretty obligated to give her a shout out. She's our super fan.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So another book to talk about.
Mhm,
This book
mhm.
called Subgenre. It's
Mm,
written by Matt Kint, who is a good good writer, one of my favorite creators.
Okay.
It's not illustrated by him. He illustrates a lot of his own stuff. This is illustrated by a chap named Wilfredo Torres.
Mhm, mhm.
And this is issue 2. I somehow missed issue 1 when
You
it came
missed
out.
Issue 1.
Thankfully, we still had it on the shelf, and I was
Huh.
able to grab it and give them both a
I
read.
feel like I've never seen this before.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I saw issue 2, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And then issue 2, where'd issue 1 go? And
Huh.
I just missed it. So here's the little secret with that, Dan.
Let's talk about that.
So let's wrap for a second. As we previously established, I am old. I have a severe case of old,
Mhm,
and
Same.
I don't have a lot of time to read all of the books that I want to read.
mhm.
And I'm always desperately looking for things to not read, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I collect a lot of comic books.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I'm like, new series. I don't even want to look at it because I don't want to like get invested in it
Mhm.
and then add it to
Then
the
you're like,
pile.
oh, now I got
Now I got to read it.
Mhm.
So I'm really, really upset that I enjoyed this subgenre book a lot.
Right.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I like Matt Kint's a great creator. I really like him. Also a St. Louis creator, so St. Louis represents.
Mm-hmm.
But the basic setup for this comic. It's a kind of a high concept thing. It's very trippy. It's very very Matt Kent if you're familiar with his work. But it starts out as a cyberpunk detective story where the main character, it's kind of a dystopian cyberpunk future.
Nice.
Some weird ninja monk tries to kill him.
Yeah,
He's
that'll
got
happen.
he's got this little like computer generated sprite, like AI interface that follows him around,
Sweet.
and a giant company, which they're basically Disney, that they own all entertainment media, that hire him to investigate some murders of these guys that happened in their building.
Mm.
And he goes on, he goes on an investigation spree, and then they find these rare books. So there's it's a whole thing. There's a lot of it's very topical in its own way, in that it's kind of about ownership of art. And so
Mm.
there's this cult of people that are stealing books to preserve them, so
Yeah.
that like Disney can't just own all of them
Nice.
and
Okay.
lock them away in their vault, where like as a thing that happens.
Yep. You only get access if they give you access.
Exactly.
And you pay for access.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of, again, like I said, it's pretty topical. But then there's like a big trippy twist where they're investigating this library, and it turns out that there's something going on with this detective that he doesn't understand. He gets knocked out, and he wakes up, and he's in a barbarian fantasy land. And he has a literal like fairy sprite following him
Okay.
around.
Interesting.
And she's like, "Oh, you drank the wizard's potion, and now you're like hungover and knocked out." And so now it's like a barbarian detective, where he's trying to figure
Okay.
out like what's he doesn't remember being the cyberpunk detective. He thinks that's just like a bad dream that he had, and he doesn't understand anything that's going on.
Okay, that's actually pretty
So
cool.
it's really cool. So it's jumping genres. So then this issue 2 starts out, and it's all like barbarian stuff, and he's trying to find the wizard. And then there's it keeps cutting back and forth
Yeah.
between I guess I should have been showing you the
all
pages.
good.
Yeah, but like it cuts back and forth. And I just want to point out quickly before anybody else can, there's a nice little spoiler here. The wizard keeps changing shapes of like forms of who he is. So first the wizard appears as the barbarian detective, and then in this panel, that is totally Matt Kent. The artist just drew Matt Kent
Nice.
into the panel, and I'm gonna guess that's probably the artist himself, maybe, or a friend of his, because that looks like a heavily photo referenced picture, and it's just for one panel.
It's very specific.
Yeah. There's even there's another Easter egg when they go to the library of forgotten books, which I thought was pretty clever. Not clever, more cute and amusing than clever. But there's a big stack of books here, and I'm not going to read them all off. But those are all Matt Kent's books, like other books that he's created. Department H, yeah. So it's excellent book. I'm a little upset that I have another series I have to buy
now
and
you're
read,
hooked.
but it's only 4 issues, as I understand it, so we're already halfway there. So it lessens the blow, but it's really good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it is more manageable. Okay, another number 2 issue.
Boom.
I didn't talk about the number 1 when this came out.
I thought we did.
Oh, you know what? Maybe we did.
Pretty sure we did.
We probably did.
Yep, we did.
Because it's got cool art. It's got robots. It's got hot rods. Yeah, I couldn't.
If it's got robots, you know we talked about it.
That's true. That is true. Well, I don't remember what I said about the first issue.
I think you liked it.
I liked the art a lot. I was pretty I don't know, lukewarm with regards to the story. It's a fine setup. This feels like a solid all ages type of book. Like it would make a good all ages animated film. The villain is like the evil oligarch, like corporation government that owns and controls everything. There's a scientist who has some kind of great discovery that could help everybody, and now the government's trying to kill him, and so he's trying to escape, and he runs into this petrol head robot who used to be a hot rod race car driver until the sport was banned because it was damaging the ozone, because it's robots driving hot rods, like diesel powered robots. So he's like kind of an anti-hero character who's reluctantly helping them. It's all neat, and as lukewarm as I am toward the art, lukewarm to the story. I really like the art. The colors are beautiful. Like it's a really good looking book. So as I was saying, like I wasn't like super moved by the story, but it's a really good looking book, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it.
Yeah, Nice to
So
look at.
yeah, it's you know what, and that's like
And there's robots driving race cars.
right. I mean, come on, robots and hot rods. But like it's what you just said. It's nice to look at. I do
Mhm.
think that's like 85% of all comics.
It's a
Like
visual medium.
it's a visual media, right? And it's like you need a good story, obviously, but the best story in the world will be unreadable if it doesn't have
Mhm.
like really good
Yeah.
art.
A
Uh,
visual a visual style.
a,
Though.
vis-
That's what I like
a visual style,
because
yeah.
that has like a style of its own, and I
That's a
really
good.
like that.
That's a good point too,
Mhm.
because it's not just about being a good artist. It's
Mhm.
about having style that
Mhm.
works for the story that you're telling,
That's
and
right.
this works perfectly for that for Petrolhead.
And I've heard you say before, like you like certain artists,
Hmm.
and like my thing is I play miniatures games and I paint miniatures, and I love it whenever I see a miniature that somebody's painted and I know who painted that
Yeah.
before I even read who actually did it. Like if I see someone and go, that's someone's style. Like if you have a style that's distinct
Hmm.
enough to where it's its own signature, I think that's fantastic, and I find a lot of that in comic books as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I do think that that's kind of something that the bigger, like, I don't want to say Marvel and DC because I
Mhm.
think DC is kind of coming around to it, but
Mhm.
Marvel is definitely for a while now. I don't want to necessarily say since they got bought out by Disney, it's been a problem. Well, like Marvel and
Yeah.
DC both have house styles, is what it's called.
Sure.
And
Right.
Marvel's house style used to be derivative of Jack Kirby, like one of my
Mhm.
favorite comic book
Mhm.
artists. And it's kind of become, as the years have gone on, it's become less and less derivative of Jack Kirby,
Mhm.
but it's still like a recognizable house style.
Sure.
And so, but I find it to be really watered down and bland. So
Mhm.
it's really, I think it's more common among the average Marvel book. It's
Mhm.
just going to have bland, samey art.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, I don't like this book, like Petrolhead. I don't believe Marvel would hire this artist to do a
No.
book, even though it would look
It's
amazing.
too dynamic.
Yeah, it is. It's too exciting. It's not to say that they don't have good artists working
No,
on
I
their
mean
stuff
I
every now
can't
and then.
do any of that stuff, so I don't need to be talking. But I get
But
what you're
it's
saying, where it's a homogenous sort of
right,
style.
and that's an important
Yeah.
distinction. It's not that like the art is bad.
Mhm.
It's a very bland house style that they're
Mhm.
being forced to draw in.
Mhm.
That's what Marvel wants their books to look
Mhm.
like, and I
Yeah,
find it very
because Marvel as a whole needs to have an image or a look.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I was
Because people will
saying,
get confused.
they will. I mean, this guy thought Green Lantern was part of the Marvel
I
universe.
don't know.
But it is something I like to give props to DC for, because like we looked at that Birds of Prey
Mhm.
book, and that art is so great.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't look necessarily like DC's house
Mm-mm.
style, like, which I would say I know. Can you believe
At
this
least
guy?
I know the difference between Splinter and Shredder. So
That's
let's.
okay. You got that. But yeah, so it's Petrolhead. It's a good book.
Get
I
some
think
Petrolhead.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Looks awesome.
All right, Dan. Whoa. We like to end the show. I ask a coworker to
Mhm.
pick out a book for me,
Mhm.
and this week I asked you to pick out a book, and I'm almost embarrassed to
Yeah.
say this, Dan,
Mhm.
because you picked out this book for me, and honestly, I don't know how I missed it.
How did you miss
We were
it?
gonna do this. We were gonna do this episode and
awesome.
not talk
And-
about this book. You know what? And that's part of the problem with New Comic Book Week. There's so
There's
many
a
books on the
lot.
stands,
Yeah.
and it really, like, I appreciate when customers come into the store and they spend like 20, 30 minutes in that corner, like looking at everything.
Yeah. They're
'Cause
very thorough.
it's very thorough. Because like it's so easy to lose stuff
Mhm.
on the wall, like just like it all kind of blends together.
Mhm.
And that's why I think like a good cover with a huge logo, a dynamic art, and a huge
Mhm.
logo is so important.
Mhm.
And I think it's kind of a lost art, honestly, for a lot
I
of
mean,
books.
it's got to be eye catching. I mean, there's so much on the wall. Like,
Right.
it's what's gonna actually get your attention?
Right.
This is.
This is a good cover. I don't know, like, I just when I'm picking up stuff, I'm
Mhm.
usually in kind of a hurry, admittedly.
Mhm.
And so I completely glossed over this one. I'm so glad that you picked it out.
Yeah,
This
it looks
is
cool.
this is written by Ben. It's written and drawn by Ben Stenbeck. He's somebody who works with Mike Mignola on a lot of his books, and it is a weird post-apocalyptic setting, I guess you
Mhm.
could say. But I really loved it. I mean,
Yeah?
I like really loved
Okay,
it.
awesome. Well, now I
as-
got to read it.
So far, I loved it so much. I might say this is probably my favorite book that came out this week, and
Ooh.
that is comparing it to like some of my favorite books in my poll came
Mhm,
out: Birds
mhm.
of Prey and Transformers.
Mhm.
I think I liked this more, if for no other reason than it was a number one, and I love it when I read something that I don't expect
Mhm.
and don't know anything about and absolutely blows me away.
Yeah, I just thumbed through it whenever I was looking. I was like, "Oh, this is like a post-apocalyptic, and
Yeah,
there's some sort of maybe sci-fi elements
there
as
is.
well." And I was
Yeah,
like,
the art is brilliant. I
"Get
don't even
me."
want to say too much about the
Mhm.
story, but it's just set up. There's like Earth is kind of this dead planet, and there's these super advanced alien robots just walking around. Like I think they're like archaeologists
Mhm.
essentially. Like they're just like investigating, trying to find stuff about the planet, and they're cataloging things. And then you see this like settlement of humans that are trying to
Mhm.
survive, and it's very Mad Max where they're
Yeah.
like trading water because water is like the only like a precious resource, you know. And they're cannibals. There's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
no food, so they eat
You
people.
got to do it.
There was a nice, like a really great, like a nice touch to the story, which is all the characters. It's like the apocalypse happened sometime recently in our time,
Mhm.
so all the characters have like this broken millennial slang
Hmm.
where they talk like it's like a post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
wasteland that happens like in the far future,
Yeah.
but where the destruction happened now, so everybody's kind of locked in this.
Yeah.
And
This is the last
this
thing
is the
that they
last thing
knew.
that they knew.
Yeah.
And so
That's great.
there's like a degradation of the culture and the language, so
Mhm.
they like talk kind of like almost in broken caveman speech but with millennial idiosms. So
Great.
like there's this situation here where a kid escapes
Mhm.
and this guy goes, dude, what? WUT? For reals, you let runt go.
For reals.
For reals. And so it's just something so perfect about seeing a post-apocalyptic
Excellent.
Mad Max-esque
Yeah.
caveman
Yeah.
say, dude, what? For reals? Oh, it's really good. It just
Excellent.
the art is spectacular. Really, really
Yeah,
intricate.
I'm really drawn
Uh,
into this, like
yes, this is the space robot.
that
It's like,
robot. Yeah.
and I love that it's like it's the super advanced type of robot where it's like it just looks like magic. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't look like robots the way we depict robots.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like Petrolhead where they're like giant walking
Yeah. Yeah.
cans.
Yeah.
This is like sleek,
Mhm.
futuristic. It's
Mhm.
got no noticeable joints.
Organic
Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
organic robot. Exactly.
We like
Yeah.
that.
So awesome book. And
Great.
it's this is definitely not something that I would say is for all ages. Not to say that there's anything like super edgy in it.
Mhm.
It's just I feel like the tone of the story is just a little bit more adult that like kids wouldn't get into it unless
Yeah.
they were like advanced readers.
Mhm.
Like I think it would just maybe I don't necessarily say bore them because it's pretty
Yeah.
like I don't know. When I was a kid, I loved Mad Max, and so this is
Same.
I'm going to keep saying Mad Max because this gave me Mad Max vibes.
Yeah. I
It
mean,
doesn't have like the
you,
car stuff in
you
it,
can't say
but
post-apocalyptic without saying Mad Max in the same
right,
sentence.
right,
I mean,
right.
let's be honest.
But it gets a little graphic, like not like not like a X-rated graphic, but
Sure,
just
but
like
like maybe the violence
there's
and
some
things.
violent
Mhm.
imagery in it, and it's excellent book. This is like going right into my poll. I cannot wait
Wow.
for the next issue to come out. So
Our bones dust.
good job, Dan. You nailed it. Much better than all those like silly books that Celeste picks for me. Those like all ages kids books.
Well, I did pick like the Star Trek book that
No,
one
that's
time,
true.
and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know who this is for.
I mean, it was for Star Trek fans,
It
obviously.
was for maybe some younger
It
Star
was
Trek
for like
fans.
Star Trek fans who are also
Because
Doctor
he
Who
says I'm
fans.
telling. Nice. Do it.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
That's the last book.
Man, that's it. We just
Excellent.
blasted through it.
We did it. So it is Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday when all of your new books are going to come out. So come to Fantasy Books and Games and buy some books. If you don't get them here, get them somewhere. There's something for everyone on the shelf.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.